coming this evening, and Shabbat Shalom to our friends who hopefully will be watching later. Certainly not our normal course of behavior, but that's okay. You know, we're doing, I think, our very best as we can. And I think the key piece for us as a community, as we were thinking about how to approach this, is that on the one hand, we know that inevitably it may become harder and harder for us to be in physical proximity, but that the temple should still be our anchor, right? Our place that we can all find a way to in one form or the other, and to not lose that connection. Because I think, as Roberta was saying before, right, if we cease to interact with each other, that really would be the absolute worst, but one of the worst aspects of something like this. And so I thank again all of you that were able to come this evening and really just to maintain that sense of community that transcends even this beautiful building, even all of this wonderful space, that we carry with us no matter where we end up going. So with that, I really wish all of us a real serious Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of peace. And it's really my privilege now to invite up Bonnie, who's going to light and bless our Shabbat candles. And if we are in the room, we're going to be on page 120 for our Shabbat blessing. And I'll hold this for you, Bonnie, like that. Amen. Beautifully done, Bonnie. Thank you. That's great. All right. So before we get started with Kabbalat Shabbat, we'll just take a moment for ourselves. Just take a deep breath. Really try to let go of all the stuff we're holding on to this week, and just try to come into Shabbat with a sense of peace. As we open our eyes, let's take a deep breath in. Let a deep breath out. And we'll open up our Sidurim, our prayer books, to page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page. Psalm 96 is on page 131. Shiru l'Adonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Masru meyom leyom, Yeshuato, Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Masru meyom leyom, Yeshuato, Shiru l'Adonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Masru meyom leyom, Yeshuato, Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Masru meyom leyom, Yeshuato. Psalm 97 is on page 132, the last paragraph in Hebrew at the bottom of the page. 135, the last paragraph in Hebrew in the middle of the page. Is on page 136. Prepare for Lachad Odi on page 138. This would probably be the first place in our service in which we'll observe a difference, which is somewhat heartbreaking because in all of the years, even when we've had small crowds, somehow the dancing still kept going. There was always somebody who wanted to dance. But tonight we'll dance in our hearts together, but we'll just try to avoid as many risk opportunities as we can. So Lachad Odi, page 100 and...
That's right.
38. That's also true. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just, social distance, as they say. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu elcha, ki hi mekor haberacha, meherosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, hu mitzei mitoch ha'hafecha, rav lach shevet be'emek habacha, vehu yachmol alayich chemla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitna'ari be'afar kumim, livshi bigdei tifartech ami, ahal yad ben yishai beit halachni, korma el nafshi ge'ala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki va'orech u'miori, uri shir daberi, kevod Adonai alayich nidbam. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat so much. I'm sorry that the camera will not have seen what I got to see. But each in their own place, everybody still found their way to dance, you know? Can't keep Temple House's real down, that is for sure. It's wonderful. So we're going to turn now together to page 140, and we'll end Kabbalat Shabbat together at Tzadik Katamar, just where it indents in the Hebrew in the middle of the page. Chatzikadosh, page 144. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbam ve'amad yirach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv ve'imeru amen. Yesh merabba mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekutsha le'la min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Tamiran Be'alma V'imeru. Amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamerorah. Baruch Adonai Amvorach Leolam. Please be seated. Let's turn together to page 148, and we'll read in English at the bottom of the page the first blessing before the Shema. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, ruling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai Tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'ahavim. Turn to page 150 as we read in English together at the bottom of the page, the second blessing before the Shema. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah, mitzvot, laws, and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Ki ehem chayinu ve'orech yameinu va'em nege yomam v'layla va'avatcha tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha ve'shinatam levanecha ve'dibarta bam ve'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shofbecha u'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha ve'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'vihi she'arecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. Let's read together on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught forever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. That there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Joining hands metaphorically. Page 150.
Adonai, mi kamocha netar bakol.
Vayam Lifnei Moshe u'Miriam Ze li'anu ve'amru Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar Kifad Adonai et Yaakov Golo mi'ad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Ashkivenu, page 160. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. Page 162. Ask everyone to please rise. We'll begin the Amidah together on page 164 and then continue silently. Please go at your own pace, and when you're finished, you may be seated. Adonai tzevatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. We'll now turn to page 371 to offer our Mishaberach, our prayer for healing, which certainly is taking on a new element, I think, in our current times. But we begin by thinking first of those closest to us and connected to us in that way. But we keep in our minds the many, many people who we have never met, will probably never meet, but who are suffering around the world. And we hope that in whatever small way that we can, that this prayer will help all of us, not just to find a speedy recovery, as it says, but also to maintain our societal health. Right, to maintain our sense of connection to each other, our sense of obligation to each other, and our sense of responsibility to each other. And the Mishaberach is certainly one element of all of that. So if you'd like to follow along, we're on page 371, beginning at the top of the page. Mishaberach Avotenu ve'imotenu Abraham Yitzchak ve'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah u'yivarech et hacholim ha'elu. And we begin by thinking of first those in our community and connected to our community in need of healing. Neil Fagan, Judy Stern, Miriam Cornfield, Roz Brody, Chana Ruth Bat-Sarah, Marlise Silverberg, Louis Davidson, Susan Spruce, Fagel Zipporah Bat Elisheva Bat-Sarah, Richard Gambino, Morris Dickstein, Michelle Sawicki, Idol Basha Bat Yitzchak, Tzvi Menachem Ben Chaim, Rivka Bat Devora, Lydia Dworkin, Amy and Gavin Tucker, Janice Kurz, David Dowling, Neil Elliott and Eileen Rosen, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Ben Sion Ben Moshe, Lorraine Danis, Buddy Kasov, Shelley Newmark, David Kyle Klopman, Rivka Bat Rachel, Sarah Bat Chana, Moshe Eliezer, Ben Sivya, Peretz Ben Yehuda, Leah Bat Naomi, and Rabbi Stephanie Ruske. If you're thinking of anyone this evening who's in need of healing and you'd like to mention their names, we'll start on this side of the room and then to this side of the room. And if you have names, please just raise a hand so we acknowledge everyone.
Ken Deeger, Joanne Sandwood.
Cecilia Hirsch, Aiden Charles.
Jane Katz, Mandy Kempowski, Mike Marin, Marina D'Amico, Nancy Sitson, Dave Keenan, Norm Lowe, Mary Moore, Erica Heck, Vivian Travis, Carol Kessler.
Yvonne Kampf. Jeffrey Miller.
Of course, all the people that are sick and scared.
הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, והאכל עמם לרפאותם לחזיקם וישלח להם מהרה רפואה, רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף. השתה בעגלה בזמן קריב ונאמר Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are suffering. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say together, Amen. Mi she'berach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi she'berach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat shalom. So, of course, you can imagine I have something of a conundrum approaching my teaching for tonight, which is inevitably a question of, do you go into the thing that is on everybody's mind and everybody is anxious about, or do you look at this as an opportunity of Shabbat as being this sort of the, as many have said, as the Hesha said, right, the island in time, right, the space where everything else can be left to the sides. So I was sort of grateful that I stumbled across a teaching from the Talmud that actually says that I'm not the first to struggle with this basic concept of where to be. So as a beginning, I just wanted to share with you this little teaching, and it's built off of a verse from Mishlei, from the book of Proverbs, that says that basically, if there is anxiety in a person's mind, let that person quash it, and then turn it into joy with a good word. Okay, so that's the first thing. So this word for quashing it in Hebrew, yashchena, is where the rabbis then play with that word and try to acknowledge this tension. So the Gemara basically in Yoma 75a relates a story or a different reading of this verse between Rav Ami and Rav Asi. Not to confuse the two, of course. You know, they couldn't have different enough names. So Ami and Asi. And so Ami would say that one should stick with this kind of idea that when one is anxious, one should literally use this word, right, quashing it, of essentially forcefully pushing it out of your mind. Right? In other words, acting as if it doesn't exist and just pushing it out of your mind entirely. And that's one way to deal with anxiety. And then Rav Asi would say, actually, that you just change the lettering just a little bit in the Hebrew for this word that normally would mean to, push or to squash something. And instead, actually, it turns into the word yeshna, which is the word to tell. Right? In other words, so that when you're feeling anxiety, tell people about your concerns. In other words, share your anxieties. Don't hold them all inside. Don't try to squish them down. But in fact, actually, you will relieve your anxiety by talking about it more. So here we have the two extremes, right? One is basically act as if it never happened and just act like it's, somewhere else, just put it out of your mind. And another that says that actually talking about it is a good idea. So, most rabbis, I don't know if you know, my nickname around here over the years has become Solomon, because I try as best as I can to adjudicate between competing ideas, I should say. So I'm going to try to do the same here and take a little bit from both. So one of the ways that Shabbat is so wonderful and it does help us to kind of forget everything else is that we can dive into Torah. Right? We can go into the Torah and we can sort of lose ourselves in it a little bit. So this week's portion is interestingly timed, as we've been building up over the last 2 weeks, and I've been warning you it's coming. This is the Parsha Ki Tisa, in which we learn about the story of the golden calf. Right? So we have sort of the line of everything is going, right? Exodus, we get through the Red Sea, we're on the other side, we have this unbelievable experience of revelation at Mount Sinai, everything is going really well. Moses goes up the mountain and disappears for 40 days to commune with God, to get more for us to live. And as those 40 days go on, and people get more and more anxious and concerned and all of that, they lose their bearings and they give in to their most sort of carnal desire. And they build this idol, this thing of gold, this thing to worship. And as you can imagine, it's a real challenging moment in our ancestors' lives, and it's something that we actually are still sort of dealing with to some degree. It's a paradigm of our experience of sometimes feeling that closeness to God, that sense of success, and then sometimes feeling that sort of, bottoming out and giving in to all the things that can overwhelm us. So what's interesting, though, is that this portion doesn't begin there. It begins actually as sort of the end of the last 2 chapters, the last 2 sections of the Torah, which are all about this building of the Mishkan, right? Building of the sanctuary, building of a place for God's presence to reside amongst the people. And so the beginning of this week's portion talks about how it was really going to work, right? You can't build from nothing, and you need to have a basis by which to pay people, to find the material, to do the construction, etc. So, of course, Ki Tisa actually, its phrase really means, it's an indication of a census, right? The literal Hebrew means to raise up heads, but it's really a way of counting. And one of the ways in which our ancestors counted was by instituting essentially a tax. Okay, so at the beginning of this week's portion, we're told, right, God commands Moses to take a census of the Israelite people, and that each of them should pay, and this is the interesting part of it, essentially what is a ransom for oneself. Okay, what does that even mean, right? A ransom for oneself, and that ultimately speaking, everybody is going to pay a half of a shekel. Okay, so the shekel at the time was the predominant denomination of coinage. And so the idea was, regardless of whether you were particularly wealthy or not wealthy, at least for this element, for this sort of head tax, as it were, everybody was going to give this same thing, right? This half a shekel. So this presents a couple of challenges. So the first challenge that the rabbis identify, and one rabbi in particular, the Kotzker Rebbe, is he sort of says, well, this seems a bit crazy, right? That somehow or another a coin, or even a half of a coin, is going to count or be equal to, right? The text tells us, right? What is this purpose for, right? A ransom for oneself. And really, it says in the Hebrew, kofer nafsho. So, if I said the word kippur to you, that would probably have a resonance, yes? What is this? Yom Kippur. So what is Kippur? What is Yom Kippur about? Right? If you translate it into English, what does it normally mean? Day of Atonement. So in essence, this thing is a sort of preemptive atonement for our failings, our lackings, or whatever it might be. So the Kotzker basically says, well, that's a bit strange. Like, don't you think that the ransom should be higher, right? If we're equating this tax, this gift, whatever it is, to be equivalent to a person's soul or essence, shouldn't it be more than 1 shekel? Which even in those days was not a terribly large amount of money, right? It was sort of your standard. It was like, they think of it as like $1, right? So shouldn't it be more? So the Kotzker says, right, Moses couldn't understand when God told him this commandment. Moses says, what's this about? It doesn't make any sense. And at that point, God takes out a coin of fire, a flaming coin, and God explains that when a person performs even a modest act of charity with the fire of passion and enthusiasm, he is or she is indeed giving a piece of their soul. Right? So what God is basically saying is it's not the denomination that matters, so to speak. It's not how much of it that matters. It's the means by which it's given. Right? When one gives to a community, when one gives to an idea, when one lives in support of something greater than themselves, it becomes as if it is some miraculous, flaming coin is given from God, right? It is our equivalent of that. And that everything that we do in life should have this mentality, right? That it's not about the amount, so to speak. It's the kavanah we put behind it, the intention we put behind it. So there's a second challenge of this, which is why half a coin, right? Why not a full coin? How does it make sense that that's the chosen denomination? And there is a classic Hasidic teaching that's not attributed to any one particular person. It says that actually this was a teaching in and of itself. And it said, it's a reminder to us that no person is a complete entity unto ourselves, and that only by joining together with another do we actually become a whole thing. Right? In other words, that if everybody gave the same exact amount and it was a full amount, it's one thing, but our tradition, or at least the Hasidic teaching here, teaches us that actually it's a way of reminding ourselves that we are not alone. We're never alone, especially when it comes to matters of large things that need to be done. Building of the Mishkan, addressing a pandemic. That if we act on our own, if we try to do it singularly, if we don't look for the connecting piece, the other half, it's not going to succeed. So, even though I said at the beginning, that we started by sort of losing ourselves in Torah, we see that Torah has a way of always kind of bringing us back to our current reality. And that at least personally, I don't believe that the idea of acting as if there isn't a problem, or coming and running to shul and saying this is going to be my respite so that I can forget about everything else that's concerning me. I don't think that's our general way of approaching challenging moments in our life. Jews have been facing challenging moments since the beginning. And if anything, actually, our intention is that when we do gather together, or even virtually gather together, when we are committing ourselves to thinking about Torah and engaging in it and learning from it and trying to do with passion, right, with what the other teaching of the Kutzker is telling us, with fire in our hearts and in our minds. When we do that kind of work together, we can achieve remarkable and amazing kinds of things. But if we try to be an island unto ourselves, it doesn't work. And I think we're all feeling, various forms of being stretched right now and pushed right now. But one of the fundamental challenges of it is exactly what Roberto was talking about before, right? Which is when we cease to have contact with each other in some form or the other, when we begin to see ourselves as on an island. When you go to the store and you see people shoving each other to get to the last thing of toilet paper, right? It's in us, right? That we're the same people that can build the Mishkan or build the golden calf, right? The two choices are there, and it's all about our mentality, about how we're going to approach it. And if we try to think of it as in relationship to each other, right? Even if we're not physically close to each other, that we have to still stay connected, and we have to still stay reasonable, and we still have to stay, thinking about each other's needs, putting sometimes other people's needs ahead of our own. And I think that the Torah actually gives us a remarkable number of opportunities to recommit to that idea. And I think that on the one hand, we are certainly being tested right now, and this is a test that, as much as we would like to sugarcoat and say, we'll come out stronger, we're stronger because of it, this is not the way that I would want that to be the case, right? We shouldn't have to rely on people to die in order for us to be stronger together. But if we're going to be in this situation, if we're going to be put in this situation, then we have to find a way to rise above it. We have to find a way to bring out the best in ourselves and the best in each other. And we have to make sure that we don't slink away, that we don't go into the hole, right? That we don't go into ourselves so much that we become what Mishlei is worried about, right? This idea of anxiety essentially overtaking us. Okay, we do have a certain amount of power not to quash it, not to put it outside, nor to give into it either, but simply to acknowledge the reality and to say, okay, what can I do to make today a little bit better than it would have otherwise been? What can I do to help somebody else who is in a worse situation than I'm in? And to hold myself back a little bit, right, to give up a little bit in order to preserve the betterment for everybody altogether. And I think none of us have all of the answers. You got at least 4 emails from me in 24 hours. That shows you that there are constantly changing ideas and thought processes. This isn't a time in which we can rest on the behaviors of the past or the simple moves. We're gonna make decisions. In some cases, we're gonna make the wrong decisions. But we're always going to try to keep that orientation, again, of being each of us a part of a community, each of us giving our quote-unquote half a shekel of ourselves, and each of us doing it with a fire and a passion that says that we are a community, right? We are a community here in Sag Harbor, we are a community of the Jewish people, and we are a community of humanity. that we are all ultimately connected, and it shows, right, that something of this nature doesn't pay any attention to nationality, doesn't pay attention to border, doesn't pay attention to wealth, it doesn't pay attention to social status, right? Anybody in the world is on the front lines almost immediately. It's humbling in its own way. And I truly believe, the optimist that I am, that we will eventually move past this moment. But while we are in it, let's not try to act like it's not here. Let's not try to put the blinders on. Let's step up and be courageous, but carefully courageous and thoughtfully courageous. And I think together as a community, we will hold each other as we make our way through. So with that, I hope a Shabbat Shalom. And Marcia is waving a hand in the back as
I'm confused how they were all slaves to begin with. Where did they get the shackles?
So this is always the first question. So not to go off into a whole other tangent here. So there is a line basically that a lot of times is passed over. Ooh, good unintentional joke there. At the end of the Exodus, before they make a run for it, the Torah says that basically the slaves, let's say, stopped by their friendly Egyptian neighbors who willingly gave essentially goodbye reparations, right? In other words, you're on your way out, sorry for how it went, here's some money and stuff. Of course, the other read of the scenario is that there was essentially looting on the way out of town. I'll leave it to you to decide exactly what the behavior was. But the idea, at least in the tradition, is that they're not coming quite as poor as it might have been inclined. And also there is a certain amount of miraculousness that exists in this as well. But certainly a good question, Marcia, and keeps those rabbinic ears up in the air and paying attention to the things that maybe don't seem to make sense at the beginning. But like I said, we're here to learn, which is great. So with that all, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. I hope there is some amount of comfort in my words tonight, and to all our friends who will maybe be watching later, Shabbat Shalom to you guys as well. So at this point, I will ask everyone to please rise as we turn to page 586 at the bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'ateit tefillah li'yotzer b'rishit, shelom asanu v'yoyeh ha'aratzon, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelom sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu echol hamon hamu, v'anachnu korim u'mishatachim u'modim lifnei melech malchei halavim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, v'yachol Hamu, v'yachol Hamu, yeh Adonai So as we approached Mourner's Kaddish, a mea culpa on our part, we had some technical difficulties producing the regular yahrzeit list. So is there anybody in the room tonight who is saying Kaddish for anybody? Would you like to just share the names of the people you're saying Kaddish for?
Ira Timbowski.
I need a song.
Thank you.
My parents had the other sample and sang sample.
Patrick Sloan.
Does anyone else have any other names to share? So we'll turn now to page 598 as the mourners join me in saying the Kaddish, beginning at the top of the page. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shnei rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Le'omei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shemei Dekudsha Barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata Damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Okay, please be seated. Good Shabbos, everybody. So, the one thing I can tell you for certain is that the announcements list is much, much shorter than it normally would be. But I will, first of all, start again with my gratitude to all of you guys for coming tonight. Each of us makes our individual decisions, and I want you to know those decisions can change at any moment. So there's no obligation, just, at least at this moment, we will continue with in-person services until we are suggested or told otherwise. And as I said, if you didn't get the email about the recording versions of this, and in a couple weeks we'll have the streaming up and running, and we'll just take it a week at a time. But in the meanwhile, I am still working, okay? The temple is still open. If you need anything, if you have any problems, if you know of anybody else who needs attention, okay, that's why we're rabbis. We're supposed to be there. So if I'm on the front line, Eva and Lou will be okay. We'll take care of them. But if anybody needs something and I can be helpful, I'm going to try my very best to do that. But as always, we're just going to use our common sense as best as we can. So my suggestion would be, as you're leaving our sanctuary tonight, there should be available hand sanitizer. Quite frankly, actually washing your hands with soap and water is probably the better way to go. We are going to purposely not really congregate next door, so we'll conclude with Kiddush in here, and I'll do it on everybody's behalf. When you get home, I hope you have something sweet that you can use to begin the Shabbat experience. And services at the moment are planned for tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And just a reminder that, that as this is one of those times in which the general rule set of Judaism sometimes needs to adapt itself to extreme circumstances, the things that normally are contained within having a minyan, right, needing to have 10 actual physical human beings in place, I'm what's called a mora da'atra of this congregation, which is a legal rabbinic decisor. It means that for better or for worse, I get to make decisions based on circumstances. So in this case, we will suspend that idea of needing a minyan in order to function as a community, considering our digital friends as part of the larger community itself. So if your main impetus for coming tomorrow was simply to be the 9th or the 10th person, which we always appreciate, if it's competing against your self-care decision-making, stay home, okay? Don't come. Normally I would say run to make the minyan. I've been saying it to you for months now, but in this particular case, just use your best judgment about what to do. And as I said, just when you're coming in and out of the building, just make sure that you're either using the hand sanitizer or whatever, just so that you don't... I realized even 3 or 4 times in the middle of the service how many times I just inadvertently touched my own face. So, again, it's like what I said last week. Judaism is actually very good about getting us to slow down a little bit and to be a little bit more mindful about all the things that we do. So if you haven't grown up, for example, saying brachot before you eat meals, this might be a good time to do it. Or when we do ritual washing, make it a ritual for yourself, right? Make it something that you do in a regular case. And we will sally forth. We will continue on for sure. So with that, we're going to conclude our service, as I said, with Kiddush, which is on page 123. And I'm sorry not to be able to share the sweetness of Manischewitz with all of you this evening, but I'll take one for the team on this account. If you wouldn't mind, though, please rise, standing. And again, page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'horei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava u'ratzon inchilanu zikaron le'maaseh bereishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל chaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim, to life, to life. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.